Welcome to another edition of Reflections. I'm Fred Hammond, program sponsored by the Beverly Historical Society, now called Historic Beverly. And today we're very, very pleased to have the new curator, associate director of something.
Of the collection.
Abby Battis, a Beverly native. Abby, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was born and raised in Beverly, a product of the Beverly school system. And I have been in the museum field for the last 10 years. My last position was over at the Rockport Art Association, which basically prompted me to bring contemporary artwork into the historic Beverly collection. And this is why we're here talking today.
We're at the Cabot House on the second floor. This is open to the public. And we have 15 or 16 Beverly artists on display.
Yes.
So, Abby, let's get going.
This exhibition is called Beverly, an Artist's Perspective. What we did was put a call out to Beverly artists, and they could be residents of Beverly, students in the colleges here, as well as business people. And they were welcome to submit pieces of artwork to the show, and all of the artwork that is on view through December 9th, Saturday, December 9th, is for sale, and a portion of each of the sales actually goes to Historic Beverly. The artists were generous enough to make it an agreement with us. So I'd love to walk through some of these absolutely stunning works from these Beverly artists. And we can start right here with this wall. And so up at the top, we have a new member to the Historic Beverly family. He just recently joined here, Tom Adorney. And he has this beautiful photograph on aluminum that is called Doorway to the Sea. And for any of you that might not be familiar with that view, that's down on West Beach. And it's a beautiful sunset that he captured in that image. Below there, we have another Historic Beverly member, Paul Treffry, and he's done Sunrise Solitude, where he's got that kayaker out in the middle of a very, very tranquil harbor. And that's a photograph that is framed and matted. And then down below that piece, we have a piece from Scott Hufford, and it's called Moonrise over Lynch Park. You might all be familiar with that view down at Lynch Park. And he's captured that beautiful full moon that we just recently had. And so this is a fantastic installation of sunrise and sunset here in Beverly. So let's head over to this wall. So for this wall installation, we've focused a little bit on the more traditional methods of what we normally would consider art, and that's the painting element. And most of the works here are watercolors. So the first piece that we're looking at is called The Stock Exchange by Natalie Batchelor. And I was really excited to find that a lot of the members from the Beverly Guild of Artists were willing to participate in this wonderful show, and Natalie is a member of the Guild. And so this stock exchange is actually, was located over in Beverly Farms. Fred, do you have anything to add about the stock exchange?
No, but Natalie is a teacher of art in Beverly and has been for many years. And she is a very prolific painter of houses and buildings.
Very much so. We actually, in a nearby corner, we have a beautiful watercolor of Hale Farm done by Natalie. So when you come in to see this show, you can see another beautiful work by Natalie done that really is close to our heart, being that it's of Hale Farm. So then the next two pieces that we have are by Margaret Eyre Thorndike. And the first is called Sweetwater and Company, and that's located in Beverly Farms. And she tended to, for these submissions, put in winter scenes. And so you've got Sweetwater and Company in the winter with that beautiful snowscape that envelops the roof and the foreground. And then the next piece that she's done is the Snowy Rock Marge, which is over on Payne Avenue in Pride's Crossing. And that's another beautiful snowscape in watercolor. And then, I don't know where you want to, if you want to go down into this one. This is by Andy Young Clark, and it's called The Old Harbor House. And it's basically a very quaint scene. You've got that beautiful black lab in front. And she really didn't have a specific location that she highlighted for this, but she said that it was definitely along the coast, and you can actually see the water in the background there. And that's another watercolor that's on this wall. And then moving to this next one, this is actually a piece that has already sold. It's been purchased by Historic Beverly to be included into our museum collection. This is done by Anna Marie Walsh, and it's called Historic Beverly Waterfront. And you might be very familiar with this view. The thing that was very striking for us here at Historic Beverly is how quickly this view has changed just within the last 15 to 20 years, and to know that that brown building has moved. And so the reason why we've done this show is to show the public that just within a short amount of time, history has changed, and it's our responsibility to collect that history, which is why we've purchased this painting. This is an oil on canvas, and so we're really excited to add it to our contemporary art collection here at Historic Beverly. So now we move on to this piece, a little different from what we've last looked at. This is Rocky Point, done by Ron Pruitt, and it's an acrylic painting. Ron has been painting for well over 50 years in the area, and his style has changed over that time, as does the style of most artists who've been painting for that length of period. This, if you look closely, you can see an awful lot of that impasto brushwork. And comparing that to what we've just looked at with the acrylic and the oil, or the oil and the watercolor, it's vastly different in its structure. But it definitely speaks to the show's focus, which is Beverly and artist's perspective. So that's down in Beverly Farms along West Beach. So then the next image is a photograph by Andy Young Clark. We've just seen Andy's work earlier with that sweet house and the black lab sitting in front of the house, her watercolor. She submitted this photograph. This is called Lily Pad Magic. And this definitely shows her range of talent, being both a photographer and a painter. Then we move on to another photograph here. This is another photograph that's done on aluminum. And I think it's interesting. We noticed at the beginning that there was an awful lot of sunsets. I think Beverly this past late summer has had some phenomenal skies. And that has given all of the artists locally the fodder to go out and capture, whether it's through photography or through painting. And so Scott Hufford captured Aubert Park at sunset in this photograph that's on aluminum. And then we move on to this really sweet image. This is a photograph that is on canvas done by Amanda Beatty. These are her two little girls, and this piece is called Dancing in the Rose Garden at Lynch Park. And I think it's really framed nicely because it's almost like we're sneaking a view of these two little girls as we peer through this opening of greenery, looking in onto the palazzo area where they're dancing. Head up. So for all of you who have been around for the bike race that takes place in downtown Beverly, we have had a couple of submissions of the bike race, and they are so very different from each other. This is the first, and this was done by Michael Chusano. And this is a larger photograph. It's about 11 by 14 in size. And Michael captures the speed of those racers with all of the blur action that he's done. But it's nice to see that he also has captured it's the women's race and not the men's race that we normally see when photographs are coming out like this. So it was a nice submission to see come through. So we have another watercolor. This is called Sedgwick by Faye Salt. Faye is a member of the Historic Beverly Board. She was a little hesitant in submitting things because she's actually been contending with a broken wrist of her dominant hand. And so this watercolor was actually done with her non-dominant hand. And she was pretty hesitant in putting it in because she didn't think it was good enough. But for someone who was doing it with her non-writing hand, I think it's absolutely superb. And she, a little later, we'll see a pen and ink that she did also with her non-dominant hand. And I don't think I could actually have the patience or the skill to even try that. So it's pretty neat. Well done, Faye. So similar to our opening panel that we started with, a lot of these works were very easy to install because the colors just spoke to pairings, kind of really easy pairings to make. And so you can see in this installation of these three works, the colors just really complement each other. And so at the top, a very iconic view, we've got the falconer down at Lynch Park. That is a photograph done on canvas by local photographer Leighton O'Connor. And the interesting story about that photograph is that I actually saw it posted by Leighton on his Instagram page on social media. And I asked him if he'd be willing to submit it for this show. And thankfully he agreed. So I'm quite pleased to have it here. And then below that, we've got the Italian Garden at Lynch Park, and that's done by Anna Maria Walsh, who we had talked a little earlier about her historic waterfront painting that came into the collection. This one, like that, is an oil painting, and it has fantastic perspective. I love how the floral element is at the front, but it draws your eye right back to that beautiful palazzo area in the background. And then right below that, another Leighton O'Connor photograph done on canvas, and that's the view from Hospital Point. And you can see with all three of these images, the colors, those oranges and red tones, really speak to each other and make a very elegant pairing. I think that would be a great pairing over a mantle or in an entryway to greet guests. So well worth a buy if you're coming in. So then we've got this very engaging photograph. Now, a lot of these artists have shown in shows before. This artist specifically, Jeremy Greer, had an exhibition here at Historic Beverly in the past. A lot of these artists are known for either being award winners or being runners-up. This show did have prizes that were offered. We had generous sponsors, Essex Alarm, as well as Art Supply Wholesale. And this piece itself is the first place winner in this show. And it is Victor over at the Cabot Resole down on Rantoul Street. It's a large format photograph, and Jeremy specifically still uses film in the age of digital. He is still a die-hard film user in the photo world. And so this image received first place. The judges that came in, one was the new director over at Montserrat. The other is part of the Visual Arts Gallery over at Endicott. They both were drawn to how this piece is set up. You basically have these larger-than-life boots in the front of the image, and then Victor's gaze right at you. It kind of makes you feel that this is the way that he's going to walk, he's going to greet you as you walk into his shop. The other thing that was very, very engaging with this image is the detail in the background. From the light that is reflecting off of the objects over here to all of the detail that takes place in the shelves in the background. There's an awful lot taking place here, but it really sets the tone and really gives you the feel for exactly what you're walking into when you walk into the Resole shop. So it was a unanimous decision that this was the first place winner. It's a great piece. So then moving over here, up here at the top, I was really excited to see some abstract art coming through the door as submissions. It was welcomed, and this submission is a young student from the area. Her name is Kelly Serino, and this is called Orange Sunset. And I thought it played in quite nicely with all the themed pieces that you've been seeing that are really focusing in on the sunsets and the sunrises. She's done it in a different way and using acrylic on paper. And so she actually received the third place prize as part of this exhibition for this piece specifically. Below that, we have this beautiful blue sunrise by Tom Adorney, and this is a photograph. This won second prize. The two judges were really impressed because they thought that it actually looked like a painting. And so they were both really taken back to find out it was a photograph. And it truly does, especially looking in the detail, it almost looks like you can see the brush strokes when really it's just a photograph on paper. And so Tom has captured that sky and that horizon line just right in his photograph. And then right below that, we've got the second submission from Callie Serino. And basically this, I forgot the title of this, I apologize. This is called Across the Purple. And when she dropped it off, I said, how am I going to remember the titles? And she said, well, just remember, something is moving across that purple piece of paper. And so she named it Across the Purple. And again, that's an acrylic on paper. So we've moved back to a little bit of a more traditional form of art, kind of the very basic in pen and ink. and this is called At Long Hill. And this is the pen and ink sketch that I mentioned earlier by Faye Salt. Faye, again, was working with her non-dominant hand, and she completed that without really thinking about form or function. She was just trying to see if she could do it with her left hand. And so this is what came about, and that's pen and ink on paper. And right below that, we've got a very, very tranquil image from the golf course. And this is a photograph from Michael Chusano. He was a gentleman who did the bike race earlier. And so he's captured something a little bit different, and he's done it in black and white. And there's an awful lot of perspective taking place there with that smaller tree in the front. And then with that fog, you just lose the rest of that golf course going back. And it's an absolutely stunning image. And then right below that, we have Katie Bull, a local artist. This is our only pastel in the show. And this is, of course, the beautiful dome of Beverly's first church. Katie came in prior to her submitting her work, and she actually asked for access to our archive to look at photographs to see what could actually kind of spark her curiosity and her artistic interest. And so she ended up leaving with a lot of images in mind, and this is the one that she chose. And I think it's a great representation of what we all know right there in the heart of Cabot Street. So we move on to this beautiful work by artist Ron Pruitt. This is a G-clay print. So it is not the original. It's actually a print made from an original acrylic. He sold the original acrylic at the Montserrat auction, and it was highly requested, and so he decided that he was going to produce it in G-clay, and that's what we have here. I think it's a great follow-up to what we just saw with Katie Bull's work with the spire of the First Parish Church. And now you've got the three spires of the churches on Cabot Street. And Ron told me that he had originally titled this Foggy Street, because he actually painted it when the Cabot Street was a very foggy view. But he felt that over time, in order for everybody to identify, he changed the name to just Cabot Street, because this truly is the iconic view that we're all familiar with in downtown. So we move on to a photo by Jeremy Greer. Now we've just looked at Victor from the Resole shop a little bit earlier, and now we are looking at John, who is a carpenter and a builder. This was done in 2013. And again, Jeremy really appreciates using film still in his camera and not going the digital route. And the interesting thing about Jeremy's work, especially with the exhibition that he had here a few years ago, is that we worked with him, and we're going to continue to work with him to do oral histories on all of the people that he's been capturing around town. So this really plays into another reason why contemporary artwork is very important for historical societies and museums, because it can definitely capture history in a specific period of time. So this is a beautiful work done by Jeremy, black and white. And then we move to the final two pieces in the show. We have these color photographs, one of the Grand Prix in Beverly, and this was done by Jonathan
art and photography are very important historical tools. There's no question about it. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for another edition of Reflections. I'm Fred Hammond. We're here at the Cabot House. I've been interviewing Abby Battis, our new curator of collections, and we wish her well.